Hello, everyone. Welcome. So I'm just going to start with some general information before we get started. I'm Dr. Latrice Faulkner. I'm the Administrative Manager of the Mary Tyler Moore Vision Initiative Consortium. For first, the bathrooms are located outside these doors to your right, next to our Ocular Biorepository Resource Center booth. And this year we also have an exhibitor room featuring some of our amazing sponsors, so please visit them frequently to learn more about their resources and the new technologies that they may offer. Within the exhibitor room, we also have a step and repeat. Feel free to take photographs there. Our communications team is on site for brief interviews, and we would love for you to share your story, whether you're a patient, caregiver, researcher, et cetera. We would really appreciate the opportunity to amplify your voice. There will be a group photo session scheduled at 11:45 right before lunch, so please have your hungry smiles ready. If you are a commuter, on the back of your name tag, you'll find a parking lot exit pass. So please scan the ticket that you received when you first entered and then scan your exit pass and you should be able to leave the premises. If you need an exit pass, feel free to reach out to Jocelyn or myself and we can get you one. We ask that you hold all of your questions into our Q&A panel session. If you are participating virtually, please feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A box at any time, and we will do our best to get those questions answered for you. And lastly, whenever you hear this bell, please don't be alarmed, but do hurry back to the main ballroom as it signifies the end of your break and the start of the next session. And with that, I would like to introduce Dr. Martin Myers, the director of the Elizabeth Weiser Caswell Diabetes Institute, and Dr. Shahzad Mian, the chair of the Department of Ophthalmology and Visual Sciences at the University of Michigan, for our welcome address. So please give them a warm welcome.
So as Latrice said, I'm Martin Myers. I direct the Caswell Diabetes Institute at the University of Michigan. I'd like to start by welcoming all of you and telling you how proud we are to be partners with the Mary Tyler Moore Vision Initiative and with the University of Michigan Kellogg Eye Center and with all of the other collaborators that the Mary Tyler Moore Vision Initiative has. I also want to take a brief minute and thank the people who actually made this possible. So that's the CDI staff, especially the CDI staff that are our leads for the Mary Tyler Moore Vision Initiative, and that's Dr. Latrice Faulkner, wherever she went. There we are. I just got lights in my eyes. And also Jocelyn Clancy, who's sitting outside. Doreen Markle, who of course is the lead for the Mary Tyler Moore Vision Initiative and making all of this kind of thing happen. And of course, Dr. Robert Levine for having the vision to get this thing going in the first place. So I have just two brief things that I want to do. The first of them is to congratulate you on everything that the Mary Tyler Moore Vision Initiative has already done. That is coming up with the vision that I think is driving you forward, establishing the biorepository and actually getting the research off the ground, which is what you've done. But the other thing I want to suggest is that you've got to remember that this only happens because of the work that everybody here puts in. So you, once again, have a packed agenda today. You've got an enormous amount to do and very little time to do it. So don't be passive participants. Your participation, the participation of everybody here is paramount to the success of not only the conference, but the Mary Tyler Moore Vision Initiative vision, and of course, the health of everybody out there who is at risk of or who has diabetic retinopathy. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shahzad Mian. I have the privilege of serving as the chair of the Department of Ophthalmology and Visual Sciences at Kellogg Eye Center, and as the director of the center. It is certainly my pleasure to be welcoming you to the Mary Tyler Moore Vision Initiative, the third annual symposium, and congratulating the leadership team for building such an amazing program focused on curing vision loss from diabetes. At Kellogg Eye Center, we're proud to be partners in helping realize the dream of a world without vision loss from diabetes, and proud to be partners with the excellent leadership team that this program has. In the department, our purpose is to improve lives through curing, preventing, and treating eye disease, and our vision is to seek to improve lives around the world by enhancing vision. which completely aligns with our taking care of diabetic patients. These were just a few numbers that I pulled out. So in this past year, we saw nearly 9,000 patients with diabetes, with over nearly 72,000 visits associated with diabetic disease, accounting for about a third of the patients we see at the eye center. Our research goals are certainly to integrate the continuum from discovery science to public policy, and this initiative helps us do that. When we look at our support with respect to funding and clinical trials, diabetes accounts about 20% of all the research studies that we currently do across the spectrum of disease processes to study in diabetes. This consortium is really all of you in this room today in helping build our ability to help find this cure for diabetic retinopathy. And certainly the Mary Tyler Moore Vision Initiative has built this amazing program that not only helps us define the disease, but define success and has amazing goals that we're going to hear about today throughout the day. So we feel that at University of Michigan, we have the strengths to help support the Mary Tyler Moore Vision Initiative, and we will continue to do so with our partnerships with the group. So welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Shazad. Thanks, Latrice, for setting it up. First of all, thank you all for coming. This is really very important to us to be able to convene the global community in support of the vision of creating a world without vision loss from diabetes. And as you all recall, this starts for me from because it's a very highly personal problem. My wife, Mary Tyler Moore, suffered from complications of diabetes, including vision loss from her diabetic retinal disease. And I used to characterize it as, I used this picture as the last picture that I showed at last year's workshop. It's to demonstrate, Mary's joy in dance and to remind me that a decade later, she was unable to dance across a room because of the vision loss associated with her diabetes. So diabetes stole her joy, and we're really all about restoring the joy for others. So it's highly personal. We can go, oh, I actually have a way to control this myself. It's an urgent public health concern, and our co-scientific director Jenny Sun and colleagues Julie Rosenthal and Risa Wolf have just published a viewpoint in JAMA Ophthalmology. Hopefully you've all seen it, that makes this point so clear. And that is, if you look at the Search and the Today data of youth onset diabetes, both type 1 and type 2, what they've observed is at a mean of about 12 years of disease duration, over 50% of youth onset diabetes individuals have evidence of diabetic retinal disease. And that works out to about an average mean age of about 26 years old. So these are young people who are having their first incidence of diabetic retinal disease. And that to me reinforces how critical this solving this problem is as we go forward. We've talked about this before. How have we addressed this? So we've started with mapping the cure in our first phase we call our cure platform, which tries to address three fundamental questions. How do you define the disease? You can't solve a problem you haven't well defined. You can't cure a human disease without studying the human condition. And you need to know what to measure in order to improve clinical care and accelerate drug development. So that's what we've been focusing on. So in the context of what we've been doing since last year when we all convened, our working groups have looking at updating the staging system. The 6 of them have each published in Ophthalmology Science their findings of their literature reviews, which Dr. Sun is going to talk about in more detail later in the day. We've stood up our biorepository, what Dr. Ford is going to talk about in his session. But one of the things that I wanted to point out is the technology that we have available allows us to kind of synchronize the fundus image with the OCT so that we can do stereotactic dissection of the specimens and then examine those areas of specimen, with omic analysis and otherwise. And new technology in terms of staining techniques that we've started to develop or perfect. In these slides, what you see there, the green are vascular basement membrane, and the red are actually endothelial cells, so vascular endothelial cells. So we can see the gaps, between the basement membrane and healthy vessels, and understand better non-perfusion and other issues in diabetic retinal disease. But again, Patrice is going to talk about this in more detail. In terms of looking at it from the perspective of what we said we were going to do, last year at our workshop, what we did. So here's a few of our next steps from last year. We said that with the DRCR Retina Network as a partner, we were going to plan our first clinical trials to look at quantitative endpoints of visual function for launch. We in fact did that. We now have 2 trials that are approved by the Executive Committee of DRCR to look at the natural history of diabetic retinal disease and in a post-treatment longitudinal study that will evaluate our standard portfolio of metrics, structural metrics, systemic measures, but also add objective functional measures. And Jenny is going to talk a little bit more about this in her presentation. We said that we would organize a workshop to take a look at data standardization and harmonization. In fact, that's what we did, this last May, and we published our summaries of that workshop. We said we would explore the development of a new PRO for diabetic retinal disease, and in fact, with support from Macular Society, from Retina Society, BioCrest, the Maritime More Vision Initiative, and very substantial support, from Boehringer Ingelheim. This is now underway with Dr. Theron Jayasundara's group here at the University of Michigan. We said we would launch our first PSA with corporate sponsors to raise awareness about the importance of eye health and screening in diabetic retinal disease in people with diabetes. We, in fact, have done that. In July, we released our first PSA, which is about, the sight you say, maybe that of someone you love. So far, since July, the summary it's been aired in 183 outlets, nearly 12,000 airings, audience of nearly 90 million, with an contributed ad value of close to $4 million, which is a pretty good outcome, especially since we just had an election. The big announcement that was on my first slide for today is we said last year that we were going to secure founding members of our MTM Vision, consortium. You may have seen in the press already today, but I'm really grateful and pleased to be able to announce that we have secured our first founding member of the MTM Vision consortium. That's Boehringer Ingelheim. In addition to this, they've also invested heavily in the development of the PRO. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to recognize Marianne Lowry, who's the global asset team leader for Boehringer Ingelheim in the retina health space, to come up and accept our gratitude and say a word or two before we proceed. So Marianne, would you mind coming up and This is really a very big thing. And I want Marianne to have the opportunity to just express, why this was important to BI, and we're really grateful for their support.
Well, thank you, Robert, and thank you to Jenny and all the members of the Mary Tyler Moore Vision Initiative. It is our pleasure to find a partner that believes so much in the long-term promise of changing how diabetic retinal diseases are treated and investing with us in solutions for people living with this condition. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And Marianne is going to lead a panel later in the day, so she'll have more time to talk about these things. Thanks, Marianne. Again, our success really depends on our bringing together, academia with industry, with government, with regulatory agencies, with other non-for-profits, and this is such an important first step in proving that we are able to do that, as are these global convenings. So we have a really tight agenda, today, with a lot of important presentations from very smart people, so smarter than me. So I really don't want to take very much more time, and I can see I'm ticking down, so that's good. But what I do want to make sure that I mentioned, that Martin mentioned, and I mentioned last night, we've set this up to be an interactive. we've brought you all here, whether you're in person or participating virtually, because we value your engagement and participation and frankly questioning. So please, we've set it up so that we have plenty of time for questions and for panel discussion. Please, you have my permission, as if you needed it, to confront us, to question us, to offer alternative thinking, and just to engage and reinforce the messaging that we're putting forward. At all of our sessions, we always start with the voice of people with diabetes, because as I started this introduction, this is a very personal problem to us. So it's very important for us to hear the experience of people with diabetes, people with diabetic retinal disease, because that sets the stage for what we do. It's the why of what we do, and it creates urgency. So let me please introduce Adriana Plevniak, who's had type 1 diabetes for many decades, who's been challenged by diabetic retinal disease, but has rather than stepping back because of that, like Mary, has stepped forward to be a real advocate for change and for improving outcomes for people with diabetic retinal disease. So Adriana.
Thank you, Dr. Levine. Good morning, everyone. Before I start, I need to admit that I'm a little nervous. This is a very personal story I'm sharing. My name is Adriana Plevniak. I was so incredibly honored to receive the invitation to speak today. I was also humbled looking through the participant list. This is truly a gathering of the world's best diabetic retinal disease doctors and researchers. Just as Mary Tyler Moore envisioned, you are pushing the boundaries of science and medicine to improve the lives of patients just like me. On behalf of all of the patients, I would like to express my gratitude for your dedication for finding better treatments and cures. As I share my story with you, I hope to shed light on the challenges and impact of living with diabetes or diabetic eye disease. I hope to remind you what's at stake: real people, real families that live with these complications day in and day out. For 36 years, I have navigated the highs and lows of type 1 diabetes. I can vividly remember being a newly diagnosed, overwhelmed 7-year-old girl trying to comprehend everything that comes with T1D. The shots, the blood sugar tests, the annoying parents waking me up in the middle of the night to test my blood sugar. But what I remember most of all is the fear that a kid can certainly understand, a fear that really never went away, if I'm being honest. I could go blind. Fortunately, I was surrounded by a strong support team, particularly thanks to my mother, Marjorie Perry, whom many of you know for her dedicated advocacy work with JDRF, now Breakthrough T1D. She is here with me today. Through her efforts, I was fortunate enough to connect with exceptional ophthalmologists who played a crucial role in my care. One of those exceptional ophthalmologists that my mom connected me to was Dr. Lloyd Paul Aiello, who is also here today. I traveled multiple times a year from my home in the Washington, D.C. area to Boston to see him until my husband and I decided we wanted to have a family. I made the unfortunate switch to a local retina specialist my then endocrinologist recommended. I saw this doctor often during my pregnancy. At 18 weeks pregnant, I faced a setback. I was diagnosed with macular edema in both eyes. The news was devastating, especially because the treatment options available to me were limited due to my pregnancy. They couldn't administer the standard anti-VEGF injection, so instead I underwent low-powered laser to my central vision on my right eye, which was the more severely affected eye. Just 3 days later, during the procedure for my left eye, something felt terribly wrong. I experienced intense pain, a stark contrast to the earlier procedure, and after a brief internal debate, I chose to speak up. The doctor examined my eye closely and then abruptly left the room. The doctor had accidentally used the high-powered laser instead of the low-powered laser in my central vision. In that moment, I felt a crushing realization wash over me. I feared I was about to lose my vision, and my family's life had just dramatically changed forever. I placed my hand on my belly, feeling my son kick, and thought, how could this nightmare unfold when I was bringing a new life into the world? The first call I made was to my mom, and she immediately reached out to Dr. Aiello. Within minutes, and I mean minutes, he called her back, offering to connect us with Dr. Emily Chu at the National Eye Institute, who is joining us virtually today. At that time, a government shutdown was impacting many patients at the NIH, with the news filled with stories of individuals unable to receive life-saving care. But by some miracle, I was granted permission for an appointment. On October 10th, 2013, just 3 days after the laser mishap, I began my journey at the NIH. What followed has been a challenging and often heartbreaking experience. My previously healthier left eye now had no central vision and was considered legally blind with 2800 vision. This picture of my son is an example of what my left vision is like for me. Imagine trying to put makeup on with vision like this. It is quite difficult. Meanwhile, my right eye, which had moderate retinopathy, began to bleed shortly after my son was born in February 2014. Since October 2013, I have made frequent visits to the NIH, enduring countless anti-VEGF injections every 48 weeks and navigating through various challenges, including multiple government shutdowns where I wasn't sure I would be able to receive treatment. Countless bleeds in my right good eye, scratched corneas, and a global pandemic. Through all of this, I've also had to deal with PTSD, some pretty major anxiety, and depression from what happened to my left eye. The staff at the NIH became my second family, supporting me through my pregnancy, witnessing my son grow up over the past 11 years. Their commitment to preventing the worsening of my retinopathy and keeping me from hopefully going blind has been a lifeline, providing me with the care and attention needed to combat this relentless and scary disease. The first year of my son's life was particularly challenging. I was unable to drive because my depth perception was severely impaired. Although my vision has improved over the years, I still struggle with depth perception today, although it is much better. The ongoing bleeds in my eye have wreaked havoc on my daily life, like a horror movie playing out in my vision. Each bleed takes months to resolve, disrupting my routine and affecting my ability to engage fully in life. The emotional toll each bleed takes is immense, not to mention the impact it has on my husband and my son. Reading, one of my greatest passions, has become a challenge. I can now only read digital books that offer a black background with white text, making it more manageable. Traveling, which I once enjoyed immensely, also became a struggle. I remember a trip to Paris and London 5 years ago. While exploring the Louvre and the Musée d'Orsay and the British Museum, my vision was compromised by a bleed. I could barely appreciate the beauty around me, including seeing Notre Dame just days before the devastating fire. I have been fortunate to respond well to treatments like Lucentis and now Eylea, part of the only 50% that treat or respond well. But each injection carries emotional weight. The trauma of these medical procedures is a reminder of what's at stake. Diabetic eye disease has taken so much from me. Yes, I experienced a freak occurrence with my eye, but since then, it has felt like an unending series of challenges. While I recognize that the many blessings in my life, including my wonderful son, the shadow of this disease often looms large, reminding me of my losses. The only time I find respite from what has happened to my eyes is when I sleep. Injection days are super emotional for me, with my anxiety going through the roof. The therapies available now are barbaric. It is my dream to have the treatments available to us patients be less traumatic. I mean, who actually wants or is okay with a needle to their eyes or a laser? Patients have their appointments. When patients have their appointments, the fear doesn't go away when they leave. It hangs over us like a dark cloud. But I have some good news to share. I am bleed-free and have been for the past 4.5 years, thanks to Lucentis and now Eylea injections. It's hard to believe that we were discussing a vitrectomy in March 2020 due to a very bad bleed, but were unable to do so thanks to COVID protocols. Yet here I am today, standing before you without an active bleed. Yes, I have floaters in my vision, but I'll take that over a bleed any day. I have continued with injections, slowly spacing them further and further apart. None of this would have been possible were it not for Dr. Aiello getting me an appointment with Dr. Chu and for the rest of the team at the National Eye Institute. My husband and I are also very lucky that his company allows him to take me to my eye appointments, which can be lengthy. I'm also very lucky to not just live near the NIH, but to also be a patient. Not everyone has this type of access. However, my journey has not come without sacrifices. One significant loss is the dream of having more children. I've always wanted 2 or 3 kids, but the ongoing treatments have complicated and prevented that desire. I am profoundly grateful for my son, who is the light of my life, yet I wish he had siblings. As you listen to the speakers and panels today, I encourage you to remember my story. More importantly, consider the profound impact diabetic eye disease has had on my life and the lives of countless others. I'm not alone in my struggle. Mary spoke so eloquently about her experience with both diabetes and diabetic eye disease. The quote that speaks the most to me is the one where she expressed that diabetic eye disease had stolen dance, her joy from her. Joy comes in many shapes and forms, and losing one of our senses dramatically changes how we experience the world and takes away some of our joy. While we adapt and discover new joys, that change affects us at our core. So as we gather here today, let's remember the challenges faced by those with diabetic eye disease and what we can do to better treat and prevent diabetic eye disease. Together, we can make a meaningful difference in the lives of individuals facing similar struggles that I have. Thank you for listening to my story, and thank you for your commitment to making Mary's dream of a world without vision loss from diabetes a reality.